The Alone in the Dark series is truly the grandpa of games. It fought in the trenches of early 90s gaming wars, but with age, newer and funkier series became much more popular and sexy, while Alone in the Dark fell deep into its middle-age crisis and experienced the onset of dementia. So what's this new installment going to be? The rising phoenix shining a light, ironically, on this old geezer, or is it time to put the series to bed? Well, it's neither. We skipped the nursing home and went straight to the part where we need to pull the plug on Grandpa, cause by God, this one is an absolute stinker. So let's talk about Alone in the Dark, not to be confused with Alone in the Dark or with Alone in the Dark. Yeah, that right there is a red flag already, when they think reusing the base name is enough to make it look good, just because Doom managed to actually pull that off. I mean, it's a small red flag, it's a remake after all. A bigger one would be putting Hollywood names on screen to cover the smell of rotten fish that permeates the entire game. Alright, they did that too. What do publisher really expect here?
Hey dude, look, it's the dude from that show that you like, the dude in that horror, and this is also a horror, so if you like dude there, you like dude here too, and so you like the game.
Well, THQ, I'll give it to ya. That's a 5-star performance right there. I'm glad you dumped all your budget on these actors' fees instead of useless stuff like, I don't know, competent writers or more than 4 developers. Stranger Things guy is a ruffled, zazzle, fluffled detective investigating the disappearance of the last duel lady's uncle and... Oh, sorry, got to read this note first. Alright, so as I was saying, he searches for him and... no, another note. 1 second. Okay, so... Oh my god! Am I playing a survival horror or a visual novel now? Jesus! Finally I can move and... Nope. Character got stuck into nothing and now I have to load a save. I've always had a hard time digesting notes and scribbles used as a replacement for narration, but Alone in the Dark goes even further. The whole plot is not in the cutscenes, but in the notes and in the recordings. I'm 6 minutes into the game and already the writers expect me to remember all these faceless names, and when the time comes when you actually have to interact with them, don't expect to get some context. Stranger Bill's guy here will probably say, "Oh, you're Cassandra, I read your profile. Oh, this is a bling blong bar, I read a note about it, no need to explain why we're here." A more cynical person would think this was a way to cut as many dialogues as possible, because when you're paying a B-tier star, every single word you add into the script will probably result in Jonathan from the QA department not getting his meal today. Frankly, that would explain why the whole game seems unfinished. If I were told this thing was designed by an AI fed with the basic concepts of what a survival horror is, I would totally believe that.
Alright, ChatGPT, it's a survival horror, so there must be scarcity of ammunitions. That way, the player has to try to avoid combat.
Acknowledged. Players will find only a few bullets, but I shall place them before every single encounter, and they will always be more than enough.
Wait, no, that's not what I meant.
Hey Dave! We just added another swear word in the script for that weirder thongs guy to say.
Oh, Jesus, we've got no time then. ChatGPT, in a survival horror there must be puzzles, alright?
Acknowledged. My computational abilities are limited. It will take me 5 days to create a single type of puzzle. Would you like to upgrade to a better version for $500 a month?
Yeah, now we're already selling the furniture to keep this project afloat. We'll make do with one puzzle. Last thing, players need to navigate the mansion to find items in order to progress.
Acknowledged. I shall place these items randomly. There's a 60% chance that these key items might be placed right next to the object they will interact with.
Can't you try to avoid that?
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Seriously, do people think that collecting key items equates to survival horror? I take a piece of plastic from a table and use it on the electric panel right next to it and we're done with that? Maybe it's lazy design, or maybe the devs realized just how boring it is to navigate a big mansion when there are no threats lurking in it. Yeah, that's another thing going on here. Half the game you're stuck with this glorified fetch quest, while all the action happens only when you get sucked into other dimensions. And to be fair, the variety of places to explore is pretty much the only good thing going for this game. Jumping from evil Egypt to evil mountains, down to evil south of the United States. Or just south of the United States. But remember, you're not traveling with Lara Croft, you're stuck with Grandpa Alone in the Dark here. His weak bladder can't handle walking for more than 5 minutes without taking a pee break. These sections are just way too linear and act as an excuse to just throw monsters at you and... Aww, it's so cute how this game thinks it's actually scary. Ooh, the lights went off and now Boogie Booga is coming at you and it looks like the intern's first day with Blender. Finding yet another 5 pages long note was by far scarier. It's less adorable when it tries so goddamn hard to put Lovecraft into the mix when it can barely hold a candle to Goosebumps. Unless you feel somewhat intimidated by this dollar store Tutankhamun killing you with his farts. But hey, the good thing is that this way I can actually understand the story. It's a mishmash of random things, but I can just reread the Lovecraft tale and get the gist of it. But about that combat. Oh, this guy's tough. Damn, I'm actually putting all my skills to test here. I'm almost there. Yes, I did it! It's about that good. Weirdly enough, there is a stealth mechanic, but the level design is too strict to avoid combat, made even more useless by the fact that monsters will just get stuck in walls, or you can simply spam the dodge button. I mean, I call it stealth, but osteoporosis got the better of Grandpa Alone in the Dark's knees, so it's more like you're trying to take a dump walking. And I still would have preferred doing that rather than spending 1 more second shooting at monsters, cause stronger pimps guy's alcoholism turns the aiming into a vertigo-inducing roller coaster. It's either that or engaging with the awful melee combat where you're armed with survival horror staples like pipe or shovel. But maybe you're ready to give a pass to this. Resident Evil wasn't a masterpiece because of its pristine combat, but because there was an emphasis on exploration. Yeah, Grandpa here is senile and must have forgotten the meaning of that word. On paper, you should scavenge every room of the mansion trying to find out how to proceed with the story. In practice, it's impossible to ever get lost. Almost every door is locked, so there's only one way to go, which leads you to find a key that will open another door. Rinse and repeat. You're never asked to put some actual thought into it, to the point that at certain stages of the story, some doors you already opened are retroactively locked, just to make sure you don't spend more than 5 seconds wondering where you might need to go next. I almost find it insulting that the game gives you an old school option when starting the game. It's supposed to give you minimal guidance, but I guess that by old school they actually meant listen to the ramblings of an old man. Why? Because every time I interacted with puzzles, Fluffy Blinks guy felt the need to say out loud exactly what I'm supposed to do. One time I was going so fast he had to stop one explanation to start another.
There's more of that rot again. Like it's guiding me to do something. So this is where...
Alone in the Dark 3 times is not the charm drained me despite being just 6 hours long. And you might complain that I haven't truly completed it because I didn't replay it as Killing Eve Girl. But we already pulled the plug on this thing, remember? It's too late for me to give Grandpa Alone in the Dark a mouth-to-mouth. And it would absolutely ruin the funeral.